Piero Martello. There is former president of the Labour Court in Milan, and the Labour Court in Milan, and I say it not to flatter him, we've been friends forever. It was the most efficient court in Italy back then, and I'd like to know from him something about prevention. We spoke about work inspectors, controls, and also the role of magistrature from this perspective. You have the floor. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Andrea, for having me in this initiative, and thanks a lot to the organizers of the conference, ISA, President Andrea, for having organized this meeting, and also because I know that ISA does care about safety at work. And so, I'd like to reassure you, I won't speak about laws, even if my job is to be a judge. And in the past, at a professional level, I dealt with problems connected to violation of rules in the field of safety. I'm not going to speak about laws. I'd like to simply tell you that in Italy, we have a wide set of regulations. It's top quality regulations, but it's not enough. And the proof of how such laws, we have the civil code, and you have special laws, you have legislative decree number 81 already mentioned, and however, it's not enough, as is proven by the figures and the facts reported in newspapers and the figures. And so, despite everything, you keep on having accidents at an impressive rate. But what happens? Each time you have a blatant case, special severe accident that catches collective imagination, it hits the headlines, and it is short-lived, however. And then you have silence till the next wave of indignation, because well, as you know, indignation is fickle in a way. It disappears, appears easily, and then you forget about what happened, because you have another piece of news that hits the headlines, and we forget about the events of the past. We always need new emotions, and so there's a flurry of news that never gets solidified, and first hope in the field of health and safety at work is that we should renounce short-lived emotions and instead accommodate long thoughts that can resonate and lead to long-lasting decisions. Avoiding the danger of oblivion, to be forgetful. In the opening video, Pasolini was mentioned. In Italy, we have fickle memory. Another big writer, Giuseppe Pasolini, said that the Italians are forgetful and people of saints, settlers, but we are also forgetful, and we don't take time to preserve memory, but to also collect data upon which acting and projects can be based. And I'd like to get to a first point that deserves our attention. And the themes of the sessions of this forum tomorrow will speak about memory, and then designing and planning safety. So first contribution that we all can give is to stabilize memory, and just those that remember facts have a drive to then act and plan positively. In the magazine that I run, it's a labor law magazine, we tried to give a sense to memory. I have a stable, continuous page, and the title is Chronicle of Announced Debts, reminiscent of a famous novel. And accidents and debts at work are no surprise. You can foresee it all. And so somebody said 3 debts every day, every 8 hours, somebody dies, and it's some sort of a war diary. And yes, the number of deaths has decreased in the course of years, and compared to the years of limited safety and economic boom, well, it has decreased. But in the meantime, technologies have improved, and the possibility to have machines and equipment that reduce further accidents at work. But we've gotten accustomed 3 deaths a day. Well, we're getting used to it, and we don't even pay notice to it. And such figures are not precise because data, and I will speak about it later, statistical data are lacking. And we should also add to these numbers the hundreds of thousands of people who would not die, but who are then disabled, that have and suffer consequences and accidents along the way. For example, while you go to work, and then victims, invisible victims, those victims that never fall into statistics, that escape statistics. Think about illegal workers, for example, who are not reporting what happens when they suffer an accident. And so, first risk I'd like to bring to everybody's attention, to each and everyone in their own capacities, in their own roles, is getting used. We shouldn't get used to this reality. In the past few years, collective awareness has increased. A famous example, the president, the current president of the Republic, not just the previous president, in his settlement speech, February 22nd, in front of the chambers, he reminded the phenomenon, saying, and here I quote, dignity means having 0 deaths at work. It's damage for the society and for the consciousness of each one of us. And we should keep this warning alive in our minds. And another problem that I have to notify is that we don't have precise data, updated data, and also reliable data. And a discovery I made with my magazine for the Chronicle I talked about before, we tried to acquire data from every possible source. We discovered that, of course, you have a host of subjects that create statistical data, but with big delay, and it's not precise. And furthermore, they do not share such data. And I'd like to get to my conclusions briefly, not to take too much time. And I'd like to give you a specific example of what might have been done and hasn't been done, not because you don't have laws. Some years ago, the National Inspectorate for Work was set up, and its main role was to coordinate all those entities that in Italy act in the field of prevention and inspection, because IMS, it had and it has got its own inspection structure. INAIL has got its own inspection structure, and labor inspectorates as well, and local health agencies, territorial agencies got their own entities. So this law that dates back to 2015 legislative decree, well, this law included a provision, and we would say it's quite logical. They set up an inspectorate as a single agency that was supposed to coordinate all the structures, inspective structures. Well, it never happened. Never. And also something that is more simple has not been done. And there was another interesting provision, because you have good laws, and all of such entities should have pooled their own data and data banks. It didn't happen, and I don't tell you the name of the most envious entity, but each one of such entities keep their own data and do not share them. How can you act on a phenomenon even when you don't have knowledge of basic facts? And it's a typical Italian attitude, and well, it happens also in other nations, but not to such an extent. And I'd like to give you an example. There was an exchange of magistrates between European countries, and I went to Belgium to follow labor justice in Belgium. When they perform an inspection in a company, they don't, well, IMS and all the other subjects get full coordination, and when they go to company, they go all together, and they do not create problems for the company. They go there in one shot, and it's not possible to do it in Italy. And I'd like to get quickly to my conclusions. And so you can have repression when you discover when laws are not complied with, but especially prevention. Prevention is based on inspections, for example, and the number of labor inspectors in Italy and subjects with inspective roles. In 2008, when the National Inspectorate was set up, there were 4,000 inspectors, and in the past few years, this number has decreased. And imagine somebody made a statistical calculation and of companies that are exposed to inspections. The risk they run is to have an inspection every 20 years, considering the low number of inspectors available. So companies are not too afraid of a possible inspection. And now I end. It's not just a theme of juridical culture. Oh, no, not to always be pessimistic. I'd like to also tell you that a law, December 2021, envisages strengthening of the national IT system for the purpose of prevention. It's a wonderful law. My hope is that it doesn't follow the same fate of the other laws and that we don't achieve specific results. If we had a single national system, we would have a big step forward to solve this problem that is deeply felt. Obviously, accidents will never completely disappear. Risk is inherent in every human activity. When you leave home, well, each one of us has a risk rate, but the risk rate is higher for certain professions, and that's the gap we should fill. We should, in a way, avoid to have this additional risk rate for workers. It's unthinkable that you leave home in the morning to go to work, and you may know you cannot go back home in the evening. And I'd like to end in saying yes. The problem we are dealing with is not just a problem of juridical culture, it's a question of civil culture, and it has to do with our way of being citizens. We should also be entitled to safety and protection of our lives. And as you can act, yes, you can act. At this point, you must act. If you can, you must. If you don't do it, it's a collective responsibility. It's not the right moment to blame somebody, but also because you have to act, also because the stakes are high, and it's the life and health of people working, and it's not just a problem of the victim, it's also the problem of the family that may have a disabled member of the family itself. It's a question of justice, social justice, and by itself, it's enough. And I believe, and I'd like to mention Roman philosopher Seneca, what is right is also useful, and we should take into account that what is right for prevention and accidents, it's also useful for society. Also, in terms of economic savings, mentioned before by Mr. Damiano, it's also an investment that makes the community save money. And I'd like to end by recalling the two themes of the next sessions, memory and project. We should keep memory, and we should keep memory, preserve it, because this represents a drive to improve and feed projects. And as out of my mental structure, apart from highlighting problems, I'd like to also find a solution at this point. If from this forum, also thanks to the attention devoted by ISA to such themes, well, if we can really increase data collection, I believe that by itself the result would be important. We do hope, and I end, we do hope that we can always keep this virtuous convergence between memory of what happened and project aimed at the future. I hope that from this forum, these 2 days, you can have a real drive from this point of view. Thank you so much for your attention.
Grazie a Piero Martello.
Thank you, Mr. Martello. Mr. Damiano has a train to catch, so he has to leave. Maybe just a very short message before you leave. A tweet. Well, a tweet is congratulations and I wish you all fruitful proceedings. This is a very complicated industry, and I definitely follow you in the future. Thank you very much. Enjoy your evening. Thank you.